Good evening, Harlem and Harlems of the world. I'm Terri Wisdom, and this is Harlem Network News. And as many of you know, Harlem Network News is a media platform. We started at the onset of COVID, and we are still here. We know that it's important that we tell our own stories. Our mission is to assure that Harlem and the Harlems of the world are informed, engaged, and called to action. And I'm going to quote one of my counterparts, and that's in the person of Roland Martin, who is always saying, bring your eyeballs home. So we need you to watch Black media. Black media is not free. So we need you to donate so that we can continue to do this great work. With Harlem Network News, you can Zelle us, Cash App us, GoFundMe us. You can do all of those things. And also, if you have would like to become a sponsor, we're also starting a membership. Very, very critical in such a time as this. Today, we have our guests who are going to be really telling our story. They are the creators of our story, and they are our story. And that is in the person of the Grandassa Models. And we have the next generation of the Grandassa Models that we are featuring. However, we do have the eldest sisters, some of the original members of the Grandassa Models that are all front and center. Everybody is present. And this is what we're about. It's intergenerational. It's passing on the baton. So I am going to initially just have, and I also want to salute before we go forward. There are Grandassa Models and kind of the forerunners of Grandassa Models, Ajaz, the brothers that have passed on and become ancestors. I'm not naming them, but I know they're watching over us. And in our tradition, we just want to salute those ancestors and ask their permission and ask for their guidance as we bring forth this knowledge and great information, especially in such a time as this. So we're going to have our sister Adjoa Barbara Solomon share with us a little bit of the history of the Grandassa Models, the why, the who, the what of the Grandassa Models in the time that it came into fruition. So, Sister Adjoa Barbara Solomon,
Yes,
please share. Thank
my,
you.
my experiences go way back. I was a child, almost a child, 1959, and a fellow I was happened to be my boyfriend asked me to be in a contest. And I said, "What kind of contest?" He said, "A beauty contest." He said, "And the only thing you have to qualify for this beauty contest is you must wear your hair natural." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You cannot straighten your hair. You have to wash your hair and wear it in its kinky state." Well, at that time in 1959, no Black woman or child would ever leave their house showing their hair nappy, kinky, or curly. It had to be straightened, dead straight. And out of that beauty contest, which was called Miss Natural Standard of Beauty, 1859, heralded in by Carlos Cooks and the African Nationalist Pioneer Movement, we grew from there into Ajaz and the presentation of the Grandassa Models, a group of women wearing their hair in its natural state and modeling and looking good and proud, wearing African style type clothing and showing the community that this idea of hair is the hair on our head, which is a crown that we should be proud of. That starts the beginning of the Grandassa Models through Ajaz, a group of women that just simply wanted to present themselves as their natural selves. And it starts in 1959 with the first natural beauty this.
Well, thank you for sharing, Sister Ajua Barbara Solomon. And I'm sure our audience, this is Harlem Network News, and you can do deeper dives and you're going to hear uh, more about it. But think of that, 1959, that's almost pre a lot of the civil rights movement. So that's a powerful thing that
Yeah.
this was happening at
Yeah.
that time. And that's why it's so important we tell our own stories and we know our own history.
Yeah.
So today we are actually speaking with the next generation of the Grandassa models. However, we do want to acknowledge and just have some of the elder members of the Grandassa models that have been carrying this torch and passing that baton and working collectively and intergenerationally because that is who we are. So I'm going to have Sister Nana Bakan speak and just share a little bit as one of the Grandassa models. And then we'll go to Sister Sokolo Brathwaite. So thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Sister Terri Wisdom, for having us on this platform. And yes, my name is Nana Bakine Akukrampanya Denchua. And I joined the group in around, I think it was around 1972 as a teenager, so to speak, or burgeoning young woman. I'm not going into all the details, but I will say that it was the Grandassa, it was AJAZ, and Patrice Lumumba Coalition together. That's when I started. So I just want to again thank you and thank everyone who is here, all those who have transitioned, many Grandassas who have transitioned, and the AJAZ founders, of course, they've all transitioned, as you said, and there are others that are out there. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you. This is all our living history. And it's amazing. I'm getting chills just thinking about who we are and what that journey was, and even what was said that this happened, which was almost pre-civil rights. So that, you know, if you lived in that time, you know that this was exceptional and unheard of. So, Sister Sokolo, if you would just like to share a little bit, and then we're going to move on to our next generation. Thank you.
Okay, Terri Wisdom. I just want to say we appreciate your continued support. We're so grateful for this opportunity for us to be able to share what is our continued commitment to ourselves, our people, the ancestors, and also for the generations. I'm so excited for this opportunity for our next generation, our legacy carriers, to be able to share with you what the future looks like for us and to share how committed we really are to ourselves.
Okay. Okay, Harlem Network News audience. So I think you have a snapshot of what we're talking about and how important the Grandassa models are to the movement, which has evolved. So right now, I'm going to have each of the next generation Grandassa models introduce themselves. And I'm going to start with Queen Nzinga, and just let us know who you are, whose you are, and your connection to the Grandassa models, because I know that there are a lot of close relations in the Grandassa models. Some of the people here, their mother was Grandassa model, their father was AJAZ. So just let us know what your connection is and why you think it's so important that you carry that torch. Queen Nzinga, thank
Oh,
you.
that's a loaded question.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that introduction, and the ladies, the original Grandassas, for being here and representing so well as they always have. And that really is part of the mission, mentorship of the Black is Beautiful movement. I am the daughter of the former administrator, chief administrator, Charles Peaker of the African Nationalist Pioneer Movement, which politicized the minds of AJAZ, the men of AJAZ, in the early 50s. I am the niece of Robert Gumbs, the goddaughter of practically all of the men of AJAZ, but birth given Afrank Adu and Elombe and Kwame Brathwaite. My mother was one of the original Grandassa Models, 1962, 63 to 1967.
All right.
And my play as a Grandassa officially, well, if you ask me, it happened at birth, which was 1967. But technically, technically in 2023, I became a Grandassa model. And through my work in the entertainment industry is how I believe I continue to move the needle for the Black is Beautiful movement. I work as a celebrity makeup artist and have for almost 40 years now, and working in film and television, music, and fashion.
Okay. Well, thank you, Queen Nzinga. And I must say, everybody is radiating through this screen, and we know that the beauty is inside and it's outside. So we're rocking with "Is beauty only skin deep?" No, it's not.
Right.
So I'm going to move to Sister Zena. If you can just share with us who you are, whose you are, and your connection to the Grandassa Models, and why you have made the commitment to carry the torch.
Thank you again for having us on this platform. I am Zena Robinson Waju, and I would say that the AJAZ and the Grandassas were here to catch me when I was born, because I was not born for the height of their activity, but I am the daughter of Frank Adu, who was an original AJAZ member and also the director of AJAZ Repertory Theater. And I think that throughout my life, the Grandassas and the men of AJAZ have been, aunts, uncles, nurturers of my identity, of who I am as a Black woman. And I carry that into the world through as an educator, as a wellness advocate. And I think the belief that that level of self-love that the Grandassas represent is revolutionary then and now. And that's the supreme form of wellness, is to love yourself enough to be your own natural self, wherever you are in the world, even in the face where people don't love you back. And I have been proudly a part of this circle as a next generation Grandassa, again, also since 2023. And I feel the nurturing and the learning continues for me in that space.
Okay, well, thank you, Sister Zena, for sharing. Those of you who are just joining, this is Harlem Network News, and we are here with the Grandassa Models, the next generation. And we have some of the members of the elder generation of the Grandassa Models who are just sitting and communing and holding space for these young next generation Grandassas that have agreed to carry this torch. And one of the things that I always say with everything we have going on with such a time as this, that being in community helps. No matter what the times are, being in community is very critical. So I think that, and I know that the Grandassa Models are in a community, in a supportive community. And that's very, very important because we are a communal people, we are a village people. So I'm going to move on to our next Grandassa next generation person, and that is in the person of Elombe Brathwaite. And I would like Ndola to share her connection to the Grandassa Models and why she has agreed to be a part of that next generation. Thank you, Sister Ndola. Thank you.
I also want to mirror my thanks and gratitude for you having us on. I am Elombe Brathwaite Carlett. I am the daughter of Kwame Brathwaite and Elombe Brathwaite. Kwame Brathwaite was one of the original founding members of AJAZ and the Grandassa Models. I'm the niece of Elombe Brath and Nomsa Brath, also founding members. And I am basically here as a legacy carrier. I want to carry on the tradition of what the Grandassa Models upholds. And I also want to bring on the new generation as we are looking forward to those who are coming behind us as the originals have ushered us in to this beautiful movement, Black is Beautiful. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing that. And I'm Terri Wisdom, this is Harlem Network News, but I also love the use of the word legacy because there's a lot of conversation right now, you know, in terms of schools and DEIs and all this kind of stuff, but legacy matters. So I love the fact that with the Grandassa Models, you are considering yourself legacy. I love it. So, okay. So we're going to move on to Dr. Ann, who is going to share with us her connection, her why, her how, and then she is also going to give us, which actually each person has by sharing who you are and whose you are. You've given us a little bit of Grandassa history, but I'm going to have Sister Ann like kind of say a little bit more about it because we want to make sure one of the things that we do here at Harlem Network News is we want to make sure that everyone is informed. And once they're informed, then they're engaged and then they're called to action. So it's very, very important. We don't make assumptions that everybody knows everything because we're dealing with intergenerational, some people that weren't born before this happened, you know, so it's, and some people that were here and don't know, you know, because a lot of our stories absolutely are not told. Every day we're finding out more things that our people did that we didn't even know. And we consider ourselves, you know, African people and historians, and we didn't know. So it's very important. So thank you, Dr. Ann. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Terri Wisdom, for having us here on the Harlem Network News. I salute all of the Grandassa Models from the 1960s. We remember, although she's not here, the last living original Grandassa Model, Queen Black Rose. We salute all of the men who have passed on from AJAZ. To be able to be in this space with my sisters, our sisters, the next generation of Grandassa Models is a blessing in and of itself. I am, as you've already said, Dr. Amber Ann Nzinga Lyons, and I am the daughter Baba Elombe Brath and Mama Numsa Brath. And with Baba being the one of the founders of AJAZ and the Grandassa Models, and working alongside closely with, I'm also the niece of Sakolo Brathwaite and Uncle Kwame Brathwaite, who's passed on, and the cousin of and Dola and I used to run around our grandparents' house on 751 Kelly Street when we were little girls, and she would take us to church, and she would prepare coconut bread and baked patties and all of
Okay.
that good stuff, so to be able to walk in this legacy, this rich legacy and history of our family is sometimes it's almost like overwhelming because we rest on the shoulders of all of those who have come before us, and to know that you share in the legacy of all of these beautiful women here whose parents help shape a movement that is alive in 2025 is it's something that it's not really something that you take lightly. When I say it's overwhelming, and when I say it's proud is an understatement, it really makes you feel like God chose us for this time and this space, and being a part of a history that came from such struggle, that came from so much racism, and to be in the day of the 21st century and still be faced with some of those same issues. It is our responsibility to be able to let the young Black kings and queens know who they are, and that they come from richness and they come from a rich history. You're beautiful in your Blackness, and that's something that the world does not want us to embrace. It wants us to cower down. It wants us to be able to whitewash who we are, and and back in the day, this is what the Grandassa Models stood in the face of, wearing their hair natural, wearing Afrocentric clothing, going out in the neighborhood and being able to say, we're Black and we're proud. We remember I'm Black and I'm proud. Yes,
Yes.
today we're still Black and we're still proud. So we have such a honor, that's been bestowed upon us as the next generation to be engrafted in, to say, we want you all to be a part of this rich legacy, because if it's not passed on, that means it dies. So we have to continue to keep it alive. And we have filled this room is filled with so many professional women who are doing great things and pouring into the lives of the next generation. Myself, I am, I work in nonprofit. I'm the founder of the CEO of From Pain to Purpose. I work with domestic violence victims, teen dating violence, mental health for youth and adults, youth development and leadership. It's a space where you're able to touch lives. So we're touching lives to be able to say, listen, this legacy is still alive, and we want you to be a part of this rich legacy.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing, Dr. Amber Ann, in terms of who you are, how you came to it. And it kind of leads into the question, because every person that spoke, the next generation people, Queen Nzinga spoke about her father, spoke about her mother. I believe you spoke about your uncle, Bob Gumbs, who was a part of it all. And the same goes for Zena, speaking about Afrank Adu. So it's the Grandassa Models, but the brothers were front and center. And Dola spoke about her parents, and you were speaking about your father and your mother. And, it's just very interesting because it is history, it is legacy, and in different ways. I'm Terri Wisdom, this is Harlem Network News. I just had the honor of knowing Afrank Adu. I knew as a name and as a theater person. I come out of film and theater, so I kind of knew the name and knew him, but I knew Bob Gumbs very well. He published a book that my son's father, I was the producer of that book, and that is how I met Bob Gumbs. But Brother Elombe Brath is someone who we all knew as cultural activists, movement, all of those things. And then also being in film and television, I worked at ABC, so I knew him from there, going downstairs in the graphic room. So, from his radio show, just a lot of different things. And the same thing with Kwame Brathwaite, that being a photographer, an amazing photographer, documenting so much of our history. And then, it's just, and other ways, where the son of Kwame and Sokola, was in my daughter's class, So I think when they always speak about us as Black people, as African people, like the degrees of separation is not even 7, it's 1. Somehow is all a circle of all of us that have come through these times and, been touched by these people that have made a difference in our lives, down to small things. Queen Nzinga, I remember meeting your mother, I think at your uncle's birthday or something. And I just remember like she wore a lot of rings. And I don't have on all my rings, but when I saw those rings, I was like, huh, I'm going to wear a lot of rings too. So it's just people impress you. And I remember seeing her maybe on 125th after that, and she had all the rings on. But it's like, I don't know what the motivation was, but I felt connected to that. So it's just interesting directions we as a people can go. And I'm only going to say one more thing, and I'm coming back to you. But the Black Rose story, Black Rose is not on now, but I remember, because I grew up in Queens, coming from Queens at 9 o'clock in the morning to get my first Afro, which was to Black Rose. I don't know how I knew of her, but I knew everyone in the 5 boroughs was coming to get their Afro from Black Rose. And I remember getting there at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I was a teenager, and I didn't leave Black Rose until 10 o'clock at night. But there were so many people there. And also because Black Rose didn't just like give you your Afro, like she gave like a poem, each person got their own poem and, and their own like words of wisdom, so it was just an experience. But I have known her like all those years, and she's been in and out of my life all of those years. So there are just so many connections, and how a small thing can make a difference and change a person's life. So that's what Harlem Network News would like to say. But Anne, we've touched on it a little bit, but is there more that you would like to share just in terms of, because we're talking about the Grandassa models, we're talking about the women, we're talking about being in community, but where did the brothers fit in? Like, I mean, we've spoken a bit about it, but what drove these brothers to say, okay, we need some Grandassa models, or we need to have the contest, that you got to wear, your hair natural. What would you like to share and say about that? And I like what you said, Anne, as well, that in this day and time, however many years later, we're still fighting a lot of the same wars. So in terms of our way, our appearance, our culture.
Yes. Well, as far as some of the history that Tanti Ajua shared and talked about what was going on back in those days in 1959. AJAS was started in 1956. That's when it was started in our grandparents' home in the basement. So that's where it started. And being in the company of being around, having the influence of Carlos Cooks and the Marcus Garvey, and being in that central time where it was so much going on, where Black women were not appreciated. Black women were not held up to be able to be all that they could be when it comes to esteeming their natural beauty. It was more Black women were supposed to look like, have the aesthetics and the look of a white woman, the pressed hair, have they were supposed to be who we look to, and that is not what the men of AJAS wanted. They wanted us to be able to, the women back then, because I wasn't born then, but they,
Okay.
they wanted the women of that time, and they were young men. So at that time, they had the fortitude to be able to say, our Black women are queens, and we want them to see themselves as such, and we want to be able to show them that their natural beauty is what sets them apart and really makes them, makes you who you are. Zena talked about loving your natural self and loving who you are. And when you're really emulating someone else's idea of what beauty is, that's not being true to who you are. Now, everyone has their own idea, even today, our young women, of what beauty is to them. But back then, the theme was to be able to allow Black women to understand how powerful, and when you understand your beauty and who you are, and as you say, who you are and whose you are and where you come from, you get a little something about yourself. You begin to think, oh yeah, well, you know what? My hair don't have to be straightened, or I don't have to wear, that type of clothing. I can look beautiful in Afrocentric clothing, and I can look beautiful with my hair in its natural state, and that is something that it's so powerful, because being who you are at your core will always be and speak louder than you emulating someone else's idea of who you should be. So I believe that the men were the forerunners, and they helped to bring the women. Even if you listen to the history that Tanti Ajua gave tonight, they helped bring the women into, no, you don't have to straighten your hair. It doesn't matter what the contest is. We have something over here for you where you can actually be able to adorn your natural hair. And like she said, it's your crown. Our crown is our hair, and actually, that is something that you have to sometimes grow into. It's a mindset where your mind has to be opened up, because you're doing what the status quo is. So the men of AJAS were very important, and they were the ones who helped to shape and become the pioneers of the Black is Beautiful movement. And the Grandassa models were birthed from that desire to be able to have us be our natural selves as Black queens, as Black women. So that's where the men fit in. They were the forerunners. They were the ones that
Interesting.
drafted the women. Listen, sister, you can be all you can be in your natural state.
Okay.
And I don't know if any of the other Grandassas, any of my sisters want to jump in and say anything, but that's what I would say.
Okay. Would anybody else like to chime in on that topic? And then after that, I'm going to ask a question just in terms of like when the Grandassa models started to get really active again, and then how did the next generation evolve? So who would like to take that question? Okay. Queen Nzinga?
I always have a lot to say.
I was feeling it.
And sometimes I'm reserved about it too. It's subjective. But to piggyback on what Dr. Ann was saying, 1956 is when it was birthed. Ajaz was birthed, but my father was second in command to Carlos Cooks, which carried on with the African Nationalist Pioneer Movement, which was a mini continuation of what Marcus Garvey was doing with his movement, which was politicizing African people in the diaspora, about Pan-Africanism and buying Black and supporting Black businesses, supporting Black beauty. It was Carlos's concept of Grandassa land. The word came from him. It was his concept, Grandassa land. So, I think the foundation, it goes very, very deep. My father was older than everyone, so
Okay.
he kind of as a big brother will go in there and say, hey, let's think about doing this. And they had the contest. And I think that also spearheaded the concept of where it could go, because the brothers were uh, all of Ajaz brothers were graphic artists. They're all artists, photographers, writers, actors, so they took it to the next level, which is how Black is Beautiful and Ajaz came about. It's an evolution process. Um, and then came the Grandassas, who to me were the real pioneers of the Black is Beautiful movement, because they were the faces of Black is Beautiful. On the posters that were around. Now, let's be very clear about this. This all transpired before James Brown was singing I'm Black and I'm Proud. He had to get to a state where he was in love with himself as well. And so through the Black is Beautiful movement, natural hair became the aesthetic. And this was also before the Black Panthers. So the movement really did affect the entire generation and their
Absolutely.
way of viewing themselves. This was, you had magazines, Black magazines like Ebony, that the Grandassas actually had to challenge them on some of their covers about the aesthetics. So the movement and the slogan, Black is Beautiful, is still used today, almost as if it's the word the.
Thank you.
It's as simple as that, but it's as powerful and a precursor and a continuation of what Ajaz, AMPM, and the Grandassas, what they started. It was a movement even before the civil rights movement was happening.
Yeah, that's what I find extremely interesting. This is Harlem Network News. I'm Terri Wisdom. We're here with the Grandassa Models of Next Generation, and we're pulling it all together. We're getting the history, we're getting the understanding. I want to go to our sister Ndola, and I want to come to you because I know that your father, Kwame Brathwaite, has a book, and there are lots of photos and pictures that are about the Grandassa models. I know there was an exhibition here in New York that traveled around the country. So if you would just share a little bit about that and how that all connects the dots. I know that your mother, Sokolo, who's here with us, has been doing a lot of work to just keep everybody connected, and is I love the way she's always engaging everyone and making sure that everyone is a part, because it's a community and it's a sisterhood, and I love that. So I respect that. So Ndola, if you would just share a bit about the book, a bit about the exhibit, and how, and I see behind you are some of the photos from the exhibit, which was right here in New York City. And, you know, you could click a button and hear jazz, and there was the clothing that was made. So if you would just share a little bit about that, because I know that's household for you and everybody else. So thank you.
Sure. So there's so much more to Baba than just taking photos. Yes, he was the, keeper of the images. He recorded through his lens everything that was happening. So it was more than just modeling. It was the shows that Ajaz did. It was the protests and the activism. He was a silent activist. He was behind the camera, but he was definitely a very active person in the movement. So in this book, it is, for lack of a better term, the tip of the iceberg. You have no idea how many images and how many things Baba has recorded. The book focuses on his images up until, I believe it was 1968. Mom, correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, it has, the Grandassa models. It has just everyday images like 125th Street. It has the jazz artists that they brought in when they were doing their shows, because it was more than just modeling.
Okay.
Yeah, there was more than just modeling. That, you already know Afrank Adu. He was the repertory director for them. So there was always education. There was always the modeling. There was also historical piece, education about what was going on in the world, not just in Harlem, but in the world for Africans and Africans in the diaspora. So the book came out in, it was 2017, and it was done by the Aperture Foundation, and it culminated in an event that honored multiple artists. So they featured each artist separately in this one event, and it was absolutely beautiful. And I think for just the recognition of Baba's work, that kind of started this other piece of the movement, where my brother Kwame, also Kwame, curated this exhibit. This is one of many. So the exhibit traveled, I think it started in San Francisco, it traveled the US, and culminated in the New York Historical Society. And it traveled to museums throughout the United States. Right now, it's been archived, but with the resurgence of recognizing just the whole Black is Beautiful movement through the book, through the images, he's also been included, his images have also been included in other exhibits. Right now, it's in the Giants exhibit, the Dean collection, which is Kasim Dean and Alicia Keys.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah, has some images in that as well.
Where is that now, if you don't mind? I just want our audience to be able to tap in, because
it's in Atlanta right now. Yeah, when they left Brooklyn,
I think it's in Memphis right now, in Dola.
oh, did it leave
I
Atlanta?
think it's in Memphis now.
Okay.
Moved
Excellent.
on. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's something we're gonna have to research and Google so people can get in touch with that. And I think that's also a great passing of the baton because when you say Alicia Keys and their art collection and so it's moving in a lot of directions. And thank you for sharing the fact that the movement was, and Queen Nzinga mentioned that too, it's a Pan-African movement. I know that Brother Kwame and Elombe were in Africa many times doing many things. I know there's documentation of Muhammad Ali. I know my partner, Brother Ruby, who was living in Liberia at the time, saw them many times there. And there was that spirit of Pan-Africanism. It wasn't just here. So that's a very powerful thing. And I just remember, I think there was a reunion of the Grandassa Models at the Schomburg. I believe it was at the same time as the book, so it was just a great energy, a great resurgence. And it appears to be very important, especially in the times that we're in, because we can say that there was that say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud movement. And, most Black people at that point in the late 60s, everybody had an afro. Nobody, was straightening their hair. And then I'll go with one of our speakers, Brother Gil Scott Heron, who I went to Lincoln University with. And I will say yes. And then it became winter in America, and that means a lot of things roll back. And we're still trying to come out the winter, in a way. So that's what I think we're looking at. Sister Zena, would you like to share just your take in terms of, because the resurgence and the coming into this next generation, what does that mean? What are some of the things that the Grandassa Models and the next generation, how do you all work collaboratively? What are some of the goals and aims that are on the forefront?
I want to say that the coming together and us, coming into this time and space with the original Grandassas, it's maybe as organic as the coming together of the AJazz members out of high school, young creatives. And you just mentioned Lincoln University. I'm also a Lincoln alum. And what came to me is that those no degree of separation that you mentioned, throughout my childhood, I went to high school with Kwame. And then I went to college, Lincoln, with Khan's daughter, our sister in the new next generation, Fofie. And we did not know that our parents, I had no idea her mom was a Grandassa. She had no idea who my father was. And so we came to the Grandassa reunion and realized our connection to one another. And that alone, it speaks to what Ann was saying about, you are called to a certain time. And it may be like a whisper, you're a teenager, and then it gets bigger as a young adult, and then here we are now. And I just feel that working, being able to see the model of how the original Grandassas work, collaboratively, as Ansakolo mentioned earlier, is that it's not one person's name. It's not supermodel. It is super collective, and that way we are like being brought into that same fold, and all of our amazing work comes together. Each of our strengths, in terms of each of us having, work in terms of grant writing space and nonprofit work and community work and social work, and just bringing all of our skills together for the same mission of really uplifting our people.
Yes.
You know, and having that support of knowing that all the skills we have are always in the building. They're always in the circle of us as next generation and original Grandassas, and that just like they're online with us right now, just to be a support, it's almost like a circle outside of a circle. And you know, our hope is to keep expanding that circle, especially to our younger sisters, younger women who we can see them on YouTube every day. They're having their hair journeys, but they're by themselves in little squares.
Okay.
And we want them to come in and see, number one, that they don't have to do it alone. And that, you know, as you mentioned earlier, that the beauty is even deeper, you know, that first journey into just accepting yourself, who you are physically, it gets so much deeper when you accept who you are called to be, when you accept your purpose, when you accept all your gifts. And that's been there for us, you know, as the daughters of collective daughters of the Grandassa, and we want to also continue to work with the original Grandassa to share that with younger women.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. I'm Terri Wisdom. This is Harlem Network News. And I like, you know, when asked the question, how did the Grandassa models, you know, start to rev back up? And how did the next generation come in? I like the answer that it was organic. I like that answer because a lot of things just are. Like you said, you met Fofia, you had no idea. And a lot of that happens probably just by likes attracting likes, you know, in the greater universe. But I would like to, we're going to wind down, but I would like to go to Dr. Ann. And if you can share some of the present and future directions that the Grandassa models are moving in. I know there's been a couple of articles. So if you would just share some of the directions and things that are happening that you can share, I would appreciate that, or that you would like to share at this time. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you again for having us tonight. The Grandassa models are in the space of sometimes modeling. Sometimes the Grandassa models do model at different fashion shows. There are certain designers that are connected with the Grandassa models who designs have been worn in multiple shows. And that has reached down even to the next generation of of legacy carriers. Sister Zena's daughter has modeled Kalima. And I know Ndola's daughter Amina kind of works behind the scenes
Okay.
in regards to even a third generation being brought in. So modeling is still something that the Grandassas do, although we are more role models and being in a space,
I love it.
being in the space where we are showing the next generation who they are as Black women. We have some media that we've done some different programs on Zoom for Women's History Month. Open the Gates is a platform that we bring in different professional women who come and share what it is that they're doing to be able to help the Black community. We have, I mean, people have talked about health, they've talked about hair, they've talked about the hair industry, cosmetics, all different kinds of things that we have that's going on in the world today. People have come in and shared on some of those different topics, senior living, and there's been some really good information that has been shared from our guests. We've had other guests like Adamola, who has come on, not just women, but men as well. So has come on and
one of our renowned Harlem artists, all part of the circle.
Yes. come on and shared about the Dwyer and the different things that's going on. And so we also have media that's has been produced and in the process of continuing to be produced in regards to the intergenerational collective of the Grandassa Models and embracing the next generation. And even, like I said, the third generation presently, we do have a wonderful feature story. It's not just an article, it's a feature story about the Grandassa Models in Our Time Press. And we definitely are enjoying that relationship, that working relationship that continues to blossom with the editors, Bernice and David. We are just grateful for that story. It's still it's out online where people can access it. Our own Queen Nzinga, she has an article that she has written in Our Time Press, and
Beautiful.
her ode to Angie, the late Angie Stone. So go and read that. We have more that's coming. So we have from that, we have more work that's coming out of Tennessee that's going to be happening with a magazine and possibly a newspaper in Tennessee. The word is spreading and people are starting to recognize this is a story and a history that needs to be shared. So we are in the also available to do personal appearances, speaking engagements. We are located in Florida. We're located in New York. We're located in Atlanta. We're located in various places. And you know, there's so much knowledge and so much wisdom in so much different areas of the professional world that the Grandassas represent. And these ladies are available to be able to share on different platforms. So lastly, I will say that we are in the space of embracing and welcoming in new Grandassas. So we are looking to continue to not just the organic legacy, but we want to extend the legacy to those who may not be birthed out of AJAS or the Grandassa Models. So we're doing a whole lot right now. We're here with the Harlem Network News.
And we're gonna do what we can to make sure more people know about it, because know about Harlem Network News and the synergy of a Grandassa Models and the AJAS and our history. And I like what you said in terms of not just Grandassa Models, it's Grandassa role models. I like that because that's real. And I like what Sister Ndola said. And sometimes we get locked into terminology. Of course, Brother Kwame was way more than a photographer. You know, he was a documenter of history. He was an amazing parent. You know, I didn't even know Sokola because she was working in her craft and her career. And Kwame was the one who always came to the parent meetings, you know, so I knew him as the parent who was always there, always present, always encouraging. And you know, so many beautiful things. You know, I met Sister Sokola when she told me about a Saturday program that, you know, helped the children. So, you know, there's a lot of different synergy. And Dola, I would like you to share a little bit about what your talent is and what you're connected in, what your work is. Everybody else kind of shared that, and I would like you to share, please. Thank you. I don't know if I'm putting you on the spot, but
well, no, it's fine. I think of myself as the odd man out. I'm a grants administrator. Zena mentioned it. So I do it with formal institution, mostly universities, medical institutions, but then on the side, I do help small artists who are trying to get individual grants. And I think that's more satisfying to me because they are doing the work that we're doing. They are reaching out mostly to young people. So I help them get grants as well.
Okay. Okay. Well, I thank you for sharing. And I think it all comes together. It all culminates. Everybody has a gift. So
Yeah.
that's a powerful thing. And I will just say one of the things when I came on to the Zoom meeting that you had, and it was about organ donation, and the doctor was there, and they were talking, and it was so powerful because I was at the National Action Network convention that just happened this past week, and they had a whole panel discussion about that, and there were several people who shared their story. Albie Shaw, one of the hip hop rapper, he shared his story. Several other people shared their story. That this is not foreign, and even in terms of how difficult it may be to find a match because a lot of our genetics may be muddled, you know. So it was just interesting because that rang in my ear. And the other thing that rang in my ear is they actually had a panel, Children of the Movement. So I would say that that kind of connects. You know, it was Reverend Al Sharpton's daughter, it was Keisha Sutton, you know, it was Lloyd Williams of the Greater Heart, you know, it was a whole Reverend Floyd Flakes, Reverend Daughtry's grandson, you know, so it's interesting that as we sit here, uh, I don't know what the title is, but you all certainly are the children and the legacy of this great movement. So we certainly will look to have you back. This has been very informative and a sharing, and we are going to keep our eye on the Grandassa role models. And I think at such a time as this, when we're facing we've come through the civil rights movement, the Black Power movement. We've had our Black President Obama. We've had, you know, our candidate in Kamala Harris for vice president as a Black woman. But at the same point, we're in the middle of a storm, a political storm, a storm to suppress our heritage, our culture, our stories, DEI, which really we're not at the top of that. It's white women, you know. So I think it's very critical and important the work that you all are doing as role models. I love that going out to do public speaking and connecting and expanding to other children because we've rolled back and we've got to bring it forward. We definitely have had a rollback. And as I say, I will quote, you know, my classmate Gil Scott Heron, This Winter in America, and we gotta make that happen. We gotta, you know, bring this revolution. So Dr.
May I interject really quickly?
Yes. Mhm.
I'm a firm believer in speaking life and the importance of words and how our words and when we agree with those words collectively can become manifestation in the physical form. So I'm rejecting
Mhm.
publicly erasure of our history. I reject that. What I'm going to say is what we're doing and what we will continue to do as the next generation. And all of the people who are, you know, the names you just mentioned, who are the next generation of Percy Sutton and those groups. You know, I'm really good friends with Malcolm X's daughters because
Yes.
my father was friends with Malcolm X.
All right.
So I reject erasure. I know what's being attempted, but when we come together, there is power in numbers. That's why it's organic the way that we come together to create a movement that in the beginning may have seemed so simple, but yet it was so powerful. So now we move forward in agreement that our history and our legacy will continue. The griots of old before us, how we knew about them was through the drums, through the history, the storytelling that went passed down from one generation to another. We are able to read. They tried to make sure that we didn't read. We are readers now. You're not going to shut down the entire internet. You can't put a tariff on the entire world's internet. It's not going to happen.
Okay, well, thank you, Queen Nzinga. And obviously, we communicated before there was internet, before there was cell phones. So
That's
you
right.
can't shut that down. And, I believe that goes along with not being able to go
And
to
it's
somebody's mind.
genetics.
Yeah.
DNA. My
Mhm.
mother used to say this all the time. She used to talk to me about distal memory and genetic recall.
Mhm.
Genetic recall are the things, in the 80s, young men used to wear large gold chains around their neck. Where did they get that from? Where was the impetus for that? It was genetic recall because the kings in Africa to this day still wear the same kind of jewelry to represent their royalty. So with us, it's genetic, which you can't erase. DNA is what it is. Henrietta Lacks is proof of what genetics can do, include going out into space. So there
Absolutely.
you go.
Well, thank you for sharing. And we're going to have Dr. Amber Ann, close us out and give some closing statements, and also let us know how we can get in touch with the Grandassa models, role models, and stay connected to the Grandassa role models, please.
Most definitely. Thank you so much again, Sister Terri Wisdom and Harlem Network News for having the Grandassa models here tonight. It has been a wonderful time of sharing, and we thank you for helping to continue to tell the story of AJAZ, the African Jazz Art Society and Studios, and as well as the Grandassa models. We want to thank all of our original Grandassa models who have been with us tonight to support us. We want to thank our Grandassa model sisters that are here. One of our sisters, Fofier, was not able to make it. We want to acknowledge her. And we also want to thank Adamola for being a catalyst, for being the one that actually was used by God to encourage Aunt Sokolo to have the reunion for the Grandassa models,
Okay.
to bring them back together again so that this work, even if the work didn't continue, but for the purpose of coming back together. And look what has happened from that reunion.
Wow.
Not only did the ladies come back together, who we look to, we know that they were saying that the torch is being passed, which means that there's a shift. There's a shift that's taking place, but we understand that we cannot shift as the younger generation or as the next generation without still having the connection to those who laid the foundation of this work. So we continue to look to all of our aunties and all of the ladies that came before us who modeled in the 1960s and the 70s, to thank them for having the wherewithal to say yes, to come back and let's start moving forward again, the Black is Beautiful movement, so that the next generation can become a part. 2023 will be a year we always remember, because that's when the next generation was
Okay.
embraced to become a part. So 2023 will be a landmark year for us, as well as 1962, as well as 2018 when the reunion was.
Okay.
So thank you so much. We would just wanted to just close with thanking and acknowledging those pivotal moments which brought us to where we are today. You can find the Grandassa Models on Instagram at the original Grandassa Models.
Okay.
Please follow us. Please connect with us. Also, you can check us out on our website at the granddassamodels.org. We can be emailed at theGranddassaModels@gmail.com. If you would like to get in contact with us, if you would like more information, if you would like to do an interview, if you would like to have speakers, or if you want to personal appearances or modeling engagements, whatever it is you desire to find out, or bring the Grandassa Models in on being a part of your platform, reach out to us through any one of those platforms, connections that I just gave. So IG, the original Grandassa Models. Our email is theGranddassaModels@gmail.com, and our website is granddassamodels.org. So thank you again. Oh, it's been wonderful. You can follow AJazz too on IG, AJazz 1956,
Okay.
AJASS 1950.
Okay.
1956 or just 56?
Okay. Well, I love it. And thank you so much for joining us on Harlem Network News. This has been a robust conversation. And, excuse me, I'll say I'm in no ways tired, because I'm energized by the community space. I want to give a special thank you to all of the Grandassa Models and the next generation. And I want to give a special thanks to Sister Socolo for making sure she keeps me in the loop, because I'm moving around and I'm doing a lot of things and just trying to keep going. But she'll always kind of tap and reach out to me. And that is what is needed, so that we can just keep going. And of course, you can reach Harlem Network News at harlemnetworknews@gmail.com. You can call us directly at 646-261-5397. And, we're all over YouTube, Instagram, all of the platforms. And we're going to really start our membership this week, so we can pull in more people. It's really important. And of course, if you have stories that you as an audience feel need to be told, then reach out. Very important, because as you said, Sister Nzinga, it's the drum beat. And that's how we sometimes just hear things. It's the drum beat. And that's why Harlem Network News is important, because a lot of times people in our community may not really know even what's going on around the corner, because our stories are not told. And we don't need that expectation. We need to, develop our businesses, tell our own stories, and be self-reliant. So that's what that's about. And I would just say forward ever and backward never. And so goes Harlem. And Harlem is a state of mind. So goes the world, as James Baldwin would say, and up ye mighty race, as our beloved.
Accomplish what we will.
Yes. Okay. So let's go. And it's been an honor. It's been a pleasure. And I'm uplifted. And we're hoping that more people will know about the Grandassa role models. Thank you. Have a great evening. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Okay. Thank you.